Welcome back. This is Curiosity, Not Judgment. My name is Birga.
And I'm Gary.
So I'm going to be very transparent and say I've been having a lot of judgment today. A lot.
Judgment happens.
Judgment happens. I have been trying very hard to get some quotes on a big project I need done, and I have called and emailed and texted probably 8 different companies and cannot get a response. And so I'm feeling fed up to here with people not doing their job. So I thought, all right, I need to stop complaining and I need to come up with some possible solutions to this issue. And it really reminded me of some other issues that I've been learning over the last couple of weeks around I can complain till I'm blue in the face, and most likely that is not going to generate any kind of a positive outcome. But if I am proactive with producing results, all of a sudden the atmosphere shifts, the attitude of the other person with whom I'm speaking changes, and lo and behold, we might just get somewhere.
Yeah. Let me just parenthetically say to start this off that Berg and I do not believe that we have this whole curiosity, not judgment thing down.
Nope.
One of the reasons we do this is because we both suffer from judgment first, and so one of the things that we do this for is we realize that that's an issue, and so we're trying to help ourselves, our families, our communities, and you, the listener, out with that. So let me just get that out of the way. We are not the be all end all on curiosity, not judgment. But as we go through our journeys and we try to be more curious and less judgmental and see the fruits of that and see the positive outcomes of that, it motivates us more to get on that analog. We know it's not digital. We know we can't say, okay, look, I'm just going to be curious the rest of my life. And we've talked before in previous episodes that there is times for judgment.
Sure.
But if we can stay in the curious modes longer, we seem to see a lot of really good results. And so the more we do that better, the better things seem to go in our relationships and lives, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why we're so passionate about this podcast, and that's why we keep doing it. But yeah, when do you complain? When do you think, you know what, my situation must be unique. My situation isn't something that should be expected. They probably couldn't have thought of that. Maybe I'm the problem. Or is it, no, you know what? The more people complain, the more they get feedback, the more they will be better, better off themselves. How do we go through that process in a healthy way?
Sure. I think those are excellent questions, but then personality is always going to play a role in that, right?
True.
We've talked before, I'm very much a people pleaser, and so I'm always on the edge of, oh gosh, if I complain, they're going to hate me. And so it impacts my ability to raise my voice and be kind of forceful in an area where I maybe need some action because I'm worried about reaction. And so there are so many different variables that are part of this equation. It's amazing. I'm sure there have been people who've done, sociological studies on this, but yeah, there are certain areas where I'm willing to complain, and there's certain areas that I'm not. You probably have been out to eat with somebody who would, without hesitation, send a dish back. This is not what I wanted. Send it back. Me, I'm like, oh gosh, I'll just eat it. It's not what I wanted at all, because if I send it back, maybe they're going to spit in my food next time. Whatever, right? But I think there is always a little temperature check that we have to do internally for all of these different circumstances to say, is my complaint worth it in this moment?
Is it worth it? Is it going to be acted upon? Am I going to get a more positive outcome, or is it just going to escalate and get worse? And this is always part of the question, right? It's like, okay, do I have the time, the energy, the resources to even make this complaint, or is it going to cause a better outcome for myself or others?
That's a really good first question. Is it going to produce a better outcome for myself or others? And sometimes you don't know, and sometimes it's going to be a gamble, right? So in the example of going to a restaurant, if you send back a steak because it was overcooked and you wanted it, medium rare, and it comes back a second time the same way as it did the first time, clearly the result is no better the second go around. But is it that important to you? And I think that's another next question. Is it that important to you? And that's going to have to be weighed out based on, I suppose, your investment. If you're paying $75 for a medium rare steak and they keep getting it overcooked, it might be worth it to you to complain a couple times. So there are some value questions, I think, that have to come into the conversation around if it's worth your while to complain.
Yeah, and is it worth your own resources and your own time to do so? And another good question is, what is my part in this? And I often, when I'm calling to try to get something done, and I get past all the phone tree and I actually get to a person, and I say, I'm probably doing this wrong. I probably didn't read the directions right. I'm sure there's someplace in your website that says how to fix this problem of mine, but I haven't found it, and I've still got this issue. And I think, you said personalities come into play.
Sure.
I think if you start taking the sword out of the other person's hand of their usual people who just call and yell, that can go a long way. And saying, look, I know I've got a part in this, or maybe you misunderstood. I really wanted medium rare, not medium well. Maybe that's my fault. I think that helps give people permission to say, okay, look, if you're saying part of this might be your fault, I'm sure I can take some responsibility for this too, and I'm more motivated to fix the problem.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to a story I saw probably a year ago about the introduction of AI into phone trees specific around health insurance, which is a big, like massive beast of an industry, right? You need to call, you've got a claim situation, you need to get a referral, whatever. And a particular company that was trying to utilize AI to diffuse people up front, and it was talking about the technology they were implementing for tone of voice and how responsive this technology was around aggravated people, and how it was programmed to de-escalate before you actually got to the real person on the phone. And there is a science to it, right? I mean, I think there are those people that would say, all right, we know there's some key phrases, we know there's some de-escalation tactics, there are some ways that we can mitigate angry people before they get to the real person, who could then potentially, explode back based on the response of the person on the phone. So it is an art, and it is a science.
That's right. And you're right about an art and a science, and that is, the whole, people claim they're either more logical or more emotional, but even the person who says, I'm a logical person, says it with passion, which is an emotion, right? So, it's always a combination of both, and it depends on your current situation, current environment, current mood.
Certainly.
When's the last time you had a cookie, right? And so there's lots of different variables in there. Now, but I still think there's some principles and some curious questions that we can ask that will be the most effective way to either get what we want or get the answer of, no, it's not going to change. And I think both are valid. Look, there's many times, if the ultimate answer is going to be no, well, let's get there quickly so that I can then move on and deal with that.
Yeah.
But let's not draw out a long thing if you're not going to help, right? And don't pretend you're going to help if you can't help. And if you are going to help, or if you can help in some small way, even if I don't think it's enough, and I realize you've done all you can, well, that's a good thing too, right?
Yeah, and I think coming armed with, again, what is my part in this? And I want to be careful about how I'm framing this, but in my situation today that I was really, really frustrated with, I've been calling a particular set of companies that are in a trade. I need a big project done, and I can't get a response. And so I was just thinking, even how can I take ownership in this in some small way that I might be able to get a response? And now I'm thinking, well, if these are smaller companies and they're on the job site from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then they're spent and they go home and they want to have dinner and be with their families, of course they're not responding to my email, right? Or they're not responding to my voicemail, or they're not getting down to the computer and getting me my quote. Would it be helpful then if I said, hey, I recognize you are swamped, I am willing to make myself available at 6 a.m. if that's a better time to communicate, right? And any part that I can play in helping produce a solution in the midst of a complaint might go a long way.
Or I'll meet you at the job site.
Yeah.
You know, you're right, exactly right. Or I'll meet you at a coffee shop near your next job site. Let me know. Exactly right. I mean, I think offering people, there was a phrase, you know, help me help you.
Yes.
So if you can help them help you, they're going to be more motivated to do it, right?
Yeah.
First of all, you've done some really good things, which is understand that they're busy, understand that they're out of the office a lot, understand that part of their job of being in the office doesn't make them money, but it's a necessary thing that they have to do, and that they're overwhelmed anyway in this day and age with lack of help, etc. And you're willing to do your part to try to ease some of that.
Yeah.
Those two things are a powerful combination.
Yeah.
I recognize that you're not doing this to me on purpose, and that you're very busy, etc., overwhelmed, and I'm willing to do something.
Yeah. Well, which honestly is not a tactic I've tried yet. And so as I've gotten to my boiling point this afternoon, I'm recognizing that there are some things I need to do to try to meet in the middle, so to speak. I think this is a really good opportunity, though, to just think about that in general. You know, what role do I play? And as you said, you might start off with a customer service agent explaining, you know, it's possible that I, you know, missed a step, I don't have a setting correct, but I need some help. You know, the reality is you are looking for somebody to walk you through a situation. You have a complaint about how something functions, whether it be software or otherwise, you know, and you're needing somebody to respond. And the approach of the complaint, I think, is another key factor. What attitude are you having when you issue the complaint is a good, curious question.
No question, because people, you know, all of us are human beings, and we will be, if somebody comes in full attack mode, well, our natural response is to put up our hands and block and defend and be defensive. And versus if it's a more of a friendly conversation with a smile. Now, look, it's hard to do that. I'm not saying that in every situation it's easy when someone has clearly screwed up to just smile and be okay with it until they come up with a better answer, right? I understand that. And we're not asking for perfection here, just, you know, progress.
Yeah.
And progress might be doing exactly what you said. I understand what you're going through. Let me help you understand what I'm going through, and let's figure out a way together of how to maybe get us both to a better place.
Yeah.
Because that's really the ultimate goal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes easier said than done when you're navigating a phone tree and you may not even be talking to the person who is the problem solver anyway. And so if you're 3 or 4 levels removed from anybody with authority, how do you handle with respect and dignity the person with whom you're talking to, making clear the issue that you have? These are tough things.
These are very tough things. I was on the phone, though, just 2 days ago, thinking that, you know, look, if I'm calling you, and I think I might have actually said this to the woman who was helping me. If I'm calling in, you know, I'm a frequent traveler. I'm on your planes every other week. So if I'm calling in, it's not something that's going to be easily dealt with through a website or an app, because I'm a master. I could probably teach it to other people, right? And so maybe I should just come into a direct line and talk straight to a person, because the phone tree is not going to help my situation ever. But then I started thinking to myself, but I'm clearly not the only one that's in that situation. There's got to be a lot of people who that would be. But then I started thinking about it from their point of view. How can you discern those people?
Sure.
I mean, is there a test that, you know, that, okay, answer these 3 questions and we'll get you straight to a person?
Are you a legitimate complainer?
Exactly. Are you a legitimate complainer? You've just come up with a great phrase. If I'm on the other end, how do I discern the legitimate complainers from the people who just haven't even tried, haven't done anything on their own, and they just want to call and take up my valuable time and my valuable resources, and they haven't even read the directions, right? And so how do you discern that? So there's always 2 sides to the story, right? If you're trying to run a business and you've got these onslaught of people, and trying to find somebody who's going to answer phones right now has got to be tough. How do you figure out how to get the people? Because you want loyal customers, you want super users to call in, and you actually would like that feedback to see if you can help so that there's less phone calls coming in a proactive manner. But how do you discern that?
Right. You know, I spent so much of my workday today working on a process flow for a situation that we are dealing with. And there are technology tools to map out these types of things. And I'm recognizing there are so many different tools that exist that could help mitigate some of these problems. Whether or not we can afford them, whether or not we can implement them as a nonprofit is another thing altogether. But, you know, I think sorry, I got a gnat in my face, taking the time to think through the process is also really important. And what you just said, did I take the time to read the directions? Did I take the time to attempt to do this by myself before I started complaining to somebody else? And unfortunately, I often have been in that situation where I just want somebody to tell me how to do it because I don't have time. I don't have time to read the directions. I don't have time to experiment. Just tell me how. But, you know, my lack of time is not somebody else's problem. And so have I done my part? You know, it comes back to that question again.
Yeah, have I done my part? And I do appreciate the people who make a little video and say, okay, from opening the box, here's what you do, right? And then you can see, okay, well, at least it worked in the video. So let's see if I can recreate that, right? And usually the videos are 2-3 minutes long. That I actually like that a lot. Especially there's a little QR code, snap, go, watch the video, right?
Yeah.
But you know, the real question is at what point do you complain? At what point do you escalate a problem? At what point do you think, okay, what can I do? And then if you've chosen to complain, what steps can you do to make that complaint effective and get to the right outcome?
What can you do to make the complaint effective? Well, I think it's going to start with tone, right? If this is a real person that you're interacting with, it's going to be about respect because, as you mentioned, if you come off on the attack at the very front, chances are not good that that person's going to respond any different, right? They're going to respond in kind. They're going to match tone. And so if you begin with, I would really appreciate if you could help me navigate this problem. Here's what I'm experiencing, right? It's the way that you posture yourself, it's the way that you frame the question, it's the way that you pose the complaint may get you a whole lot further down the road.
I really like the way you said that. Help me navigate this problem. That kind of puts you on the same side of the problem, the same side of the table, so to speak, right from the beginning. Help me navigate this problem together. If you can do that, that's a big deal. So tone, content of the question, right? How can I ask this in the least offensive way possible, right? How do I get this person on my side? How do I quickly relate the problem in language they will understand? And you know, and how do I express properly the outcome that I'm looking for?
Yes.
Because that's another thing. I had one of my kids call me the other day, and they started down a process, and I assumed immediately what the outcome they were looking for. But in one of my rare times, I remained curious. I just asked a few questions, and it turns out that was not the outcome they were looking for at all. And I'm really glad I didn't act on my judgment because I would have probably soured the conversation and they would not have got the outcome they wanted. And I certainly wouldn't have got the outcome I want.
Yeah.
You know, I actually want my kids to call me when they're in issues, right? And when they have problems. I don't want them to have me solve them for them without any effort on their part.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm becoming the company I'm complaining against now anyway. But I'm just saying that bent of curiosity and waiting to see what that expectation for an outcome is very important. So if we are the ones asking for a different outcome, then being able to just taking a second to articulate what is the outcome I'm actually looking for.
That's huge. I think that's really huge. So 2 things I would say in response to that is I'm thinking back to the Donald Miller's story brand coaching that you and I received recently around having the other person be the hero.
Yep.
So if you get on the phone or if you are face to face with somebody and you let them be the hero, so you phrase it in such a way, hey, could you help me accomplish X? Right? So you're doing both things. You're asking the other person to be the hero in the story, the hero in the situation, and you're expressing what your desired outcome is.
Yep.
Could you help me through this process? Ultimately, I think I'm going to need to find this solution. Can you help me get there? Right? And so it does two things at once. And so that, I love that approach.
Yeah, and just as a quick reminder, so the story brand approach is there's always a hero in the story. They have some significant thing occur that means they need something. And then a guide appears, right? And then the guide helps them get what they want. So if we can identify and say, okay, here's exactly what I'm looking for. Here's what that allows other people to guide. People like to be guides.
Sure.
Especially people who've chosen the profession of answering a phone call to guide you to an answer. That makes their day too. That makes them pleasant, makes them feel accomplished, like they've gotten something done. And so if you can clearly articulate what the outcome you're looking for, then that makes it much easier for that person to help you get there.
You know, I could see that work in a couple of different ways, and I'm sure you could dissect that and figure out how to make that work in the customer service world. But yes, if you are posturing it so that you're not going to be the victor necessarily, that the person helping you is going to be the victor, how that shifts the tone, how that shifts the dynamic, and then being able to help define what solution is that you're looking for. And, you know, at the end of the day, it may be, you know, I'd really appreciate a 50% off coupon for this because it's
Just
been
worked
such a headache.
Today.
Right.
Yes.
But asking the question respectfully and saying just that piece, here's what I'm really hoping that you might be able to accomplish.
Exactly. And then that was the outcome I was looking for. And
Right.
so now, you know, instead of a return, I'm going to get an upgraded product as a loyal customer that is going to work for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mind spending a little extra money. Otherwise, I was going to have to return a product into their system, which would have cost them ultimately more money. Now they get another sale, slight discount, but it's to a loyal customer. And so everybody got what they wanted out of this because we stayed in the process. And I didn't just get mad and hang up the phone and, you know, those kinds of things. But anyway, I think that those questions that we've come up with, you know, what is it that I really want? What is it that I'm looking for here? And you could even do exceeds position, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, right? And just write that out, being very clear on that. And then figuring out, okay, so now what's my part in not having this situation occur? How can I help them help me?
Right.
By giving them options and various ways to do that, and then help them be that navigator of help that they want to be. Get on the same side of the problem, work it together, and make them feel like they're not just being yelled at, but that they're actually becoming part of the solution with you.
Yeah. So if you have to return your $75 steak because it's been overcooked and it comes back a second time, perhaps you can suggest, you know what? I don't want to waste the resources of the restaurant. I don't want this food to go to waste. Would you just ask the manager if I could just have this half off?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think about, you know, real applications and, you know, tone, respect, posture, all of those things are going to play into this. So lots of curious questions, I think, for us to consider as we navigate legitimate complaints.
Yes.
And as always, we are delighted to hear your feedback. Maybe you have some legitimate complaints
Yes.
about our conversation today. If you posture it in a respectful way, we are happy to get back to you. So curiositynotjudgment.com is the website. And as always, the comments are available to you on the YouTube channel. Any final thoughts?
I would say that I am going to be a much more effective complainer now.
Fabulous. I will attempt to do the same. All right, you all have a fabulous week, and we'll see you again next time.
Take care.